Good morning. My name is Derek Benish. I'm the Associate Dean in Global Learning. And today we are joined by Janelle Brem, who is a career coach in student services.
Hello.
Hello. And we're going to talk about a study abroad experience. Just to begin, please tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, again, my name is Janelle, and I grew up here in Iowa, was born in Dubuque, and I went to Kirkwood actually right after high school, and I did floral design, and then I switched to landscape design, and I ended up deciding to transfer to UNI, and then I had, after graduating, some other really cool experiences, and then I found myself back here at Kirkwood because I had a really good experience. So I'm really grateful to be working back here. But in my free time, I enjoy playing sports, hanging out with people, meeting new people, traveling, cooking, baking, all that good stuff.
Great. And what was the initial decision to come to Kirkwood from Dubuque?
Yeah, good question. I had done a work study when I was in high school at a flower shop, and I decided, hey, this is what I want to do. And Kirkwood was one of the schools nearby that had that program. And when I got a tour here, I honestly fell in love, and I really enjoyed my time while in the program, but that's my initial decision to coming here.
Okay. So I know that your study abroad experience was a while ago. It was 2013.
Correct.
So could you tell us a little bit about that decision to study abroad, and then where did you go?
Sure.
What did you do?
I would say the initial decision, because I'm a first generation college student, and I'm one of 7 kids, so I do have older siblings that went to college, a couple that did the 4-year programs, and then a couple that did technical programs. So I myself started in a technical program, but then while I was here, I got more involved in leadership opportunities, study abroad, student leadership council, and I was just learning lots, and I learned about study abroad, and I always wondered what that was. And I guess I just walked into the study abroad office and said, I want to study abroad. And they were really willing to find an opportunity. And at that time, the only program that was available for that summer was to Vietnam. So it was a 2-week program where we met in Singapore for 3 days. And we met with other students from community colleges from Canada, Australia, and Singapore. And we had team building activities where we got to know each other. And they were also collecting some school supplies and shoes for students at a school in Vietnam, which is where we then went for about 10 days. And we did a service project because the whole program was through Global Education Network, so GEN. And we had the opportunity to refloor a classroom at a school in a small town in Vietnam, Ben Tre. And then we were able to interact with the children there, and it was a really cool experience because I didn't know Vietnamese. We did have 1 day of a lesson, but we had to figure out this way of communicating and describing these activities that we were creating for the children when we didn't know their language. They didn't necessarily know our language, and it was just a really impactful and really unique experience.
And was that your first time out of the country? Was that your first time abroad?
Yes, it was. It was actually my first time flying. So imagine coming from Chicago, going all the way to Hong Kong. So first flight ever in my life. It was 13 hours long. I knew nothing different. I was like, oh, okay, this is what flying is. I remember the person sitting next to me on my flight going to Hong Kong. It was someone from Colorado, and he was super friendly, made my experience really, really nice. But he kind of chuckled when about maybe 15 minutes before we were to take off, I ended up taking the calming or motion sickness just because I wasn't sure. And he kind of laughed and said, you probably should have taken that about 30 minutes ago for it to set in. But overall, I was relaxed, and I actually ended up loving the thrill of takeoff and flying, and I've loved it ever since.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And those team building experiences that you had in Singapore before you, as a group, went to Vietnam, I assume that those were helpful in kind of building the group so that you could work together more successfully when you're in Vietnam at the um, uh,
At the school.
smaller town school. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was really cool to first it was just meeting people from other countries. I came from not a very diverse school or community, and having the chance to get to know these people from other colleges and their culture and touring around the city, it was a way for us to get to know each other and feel comfortable before we were working on that service project together.
All right.
Hmm.
Um, can you tell us about a few memorable experiences um, or encounters, and maybe a few challenges that you had?
Sure. So, some memorable pieces from the trip, I would say I remember when we were in Singapore, we were going around the city and just taking in the culture. And I remember learning about henna, and I had never heard of that before or ever had that done. And they asked if anyone wanted to be the participant. And of course, I raised my hand because I wanted to experience that. And it was just a really cool experience. And I learned like the artistic piece of that. And I really enjoyed that. And some other pieces that stood out, I would say definitely the food. I love food. Learning about the different fruits like mangosteen or durian, seeing all of the fruit grown too, because here in Iowa we have, apple trees and pear trees, standard things, but going to another country where seeing these different fruits and how they grew and just different cuisine. I don't think I've ever had as much octopus as I did there. So trying new foods was definitely a really cool experience as well. And I think even just learning from the other people, hearing their accents or their way of life and how that perspective was different. I remember I was talking to one of the students from Singapore, and I said, "Oh, I live an hour away from where I go to school." And he was shocked by that. And it made me realize the reason why he was so shocked is because the whole country of Singapore is like, if you drive it east to west, 45 minutes maybe, and then north to south is like an hour. So the distance within their own country was pretty quick to get to places, but within just Iowa, one state of the whole United States, it was, longer distances. And so it opened my mind to just the differences in culture and country and where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also mentioned some of the challenges. So I do remember I ended up getting a cold, and I don't know if it was the change in temperature, the humidity. And so, here you just know where to go, what to get if you have a cold. But there in Vietnam, we went across the street from our hotel, and their setup for over-the-counter medications was just completely different. And I was nervous. I wasn't really sure what to expect. And of course, I'm not going to understand the language. And I just decided that it's okay. I don't need to get anything. It's just a cold. I can get over it. But it was interesting to think about those differences in culture. And then I would say the other challenge too was just learning how to communicate and how to interact when you don't know the same language. It's just a really interesting experience. And when I was at the school, there were some children that were just hanging around because they lived nearby. And you just wanted to say, like, you just wanted to talk to them, but it was really difficult to figure out how to communicate with like verbal communication. So sometimes it was like nonverbal or gestures or giving a high five, something like that.
Those are super interesting experiences, right? When you're in a different place and different language, and then you see children there, and somehow you think that you should be able to communicate with the children, like it's just the
Exactly.
adults that speak the other language. No, it's the kids too.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Do you have any message or anything you want to say about to Kirkwood students who are thinking about um, doing a study abroad experience, or maybe the students who have never even considered doing a study abroad program?
Sure. I would say do it. Absolutely. It just expands your mind. And when I was asked for the opportunity to do this podcast, I was super excited. And it just, with questions, it made me realize that from that experience that I chose to study abroad, it truly has changed my life. And I know that's a cliche line, but it really has. And it changes the way that I look at the world, how I address problems sometimes, because I'm looking at the whole world in different perspectives rather than just my own or my own country. And I would say if you have the opportunity, take it. If you're curious, ask. Like I said, there was the opportunities for me. There's scholarships available as well. And you never know where it can take you. It and you never know where those connections. There's one of the students from Canada that I still stay in contact with, and I still intend to this day to go and visit her in Canada. But I would say absolutely take advantage, and you never know where it can take you.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time today and sharing your experiences and encouragement. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you.